All right. Hello, folks. This is PLYR Toons. This is a segment where we talk about recent anime news and things that interest us in those animes, or cartoons for that matter. I am Fearless, and today we're going to talk about Boku no Hero and Samurai Jack. I have a guest host with me today. I'm wondering if he'll introduce himself, though.
Hello, my name is Dup McGavin, also known as the voice of Player Two's podcast.
All right. Lacking any filler whatsoever, I'm just going to get right into the topics. All right, let's see what we got here. What do you think of the lead character in Boku no Hero, Midoriya Izu?
Personally, I'd probably say that he is generic. Not generic in a bad way, mind you, just simply the fact of he is the everyman who wants to be, who aspires to be the best of the best, with really has no prerequisite skill towards that and has to work, try his hardest, and it's the classic story of the underdog, the one who is
Yes.
down and out, who cannot do anything, who turns out to do everything, and actually using his mind even when he does have strength to do things.
Yes, that's kind of how he's been getting by so far, just by using his intelligence in order to beat out heroes who have greater natural physical strength in him other than his quirk that was given to him.
And a hell of a lot of luck.
Yes, that too. Well, there's a lot to say about character development, but that's kind of the route that Japan tends to go when they make movies or cartoons. They focus on character development rather than a big production story. Whereas over here, we focus more on the story than we do on character development. Our characters are usually already developed as much as they're going to be throughout the movie or cartoon.
So I don't
But
know. I
over
think that we
there,
have had a good chunk of development. I mean, yes, there are a lot of characters, which is one of the only real problems I've ever seen is that there are a lot of characters, so trying to get any kind of intimate with them does kind of suck.
yeah,
But seeing how I don't remember what is the redhead girl's name, the one that floats stuff,
her name is Araka.
Araka. In the beginning, you see her as this sweet, innocent girl who is just trying her best to do her best. But it turns out that her real motivation is greedy, but not in a greedy way. Like it's for her parents.
Yeah,
And as timid as she is, she eventually gets to the point where she's all like, "All right, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win everything. And I happen, but I'm definitely gonna do my best. Everything I've got is going into this. My parents deserve all that I can give them." And you see her grow. And
yeah,
of course, you have
true.
the main character who grows leaps and bounds every single goddamn episode. I've never seen this much character growth since freaking Dragon Ball.
Yeah, it's kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because when it comes to character development, he starts out as just a weak little coward.
Yeah.
Now he's a somewhat slightly weaker little coward.
Well,
And
he's got all the strength in the world. He just has no control over it. And
yeah,
especially considering that we're in a tournament arc, he has to be
yeah,
very careful not to murder his opponents.
yeah. But
Because with
that's
the
not
power
his
that he
only.
has, that is basically what he'll do if he's not careful.
Yeah, that's one of his problems. But the big restrainer on his powers is that it damages him. It breaks his bones. It scars his skin and stuff.
Which he does heal off pretty quickly due to All Might's other abilities.
Yeah, true that. And
Or one for all. All for one, is it called? Or one for
yeah,
all? All for
it's
one?
awful. I think it's one for all.
Yeah.
But his healing ability aside, it's the school nurse that helps him get over the injuries a lot quicker.
Yeah.
What's the name again? Regeneration Girl.
Oh, yeah.
She's this old lady that all she has to do is kiss you, and all of a sudden your healing rate speeds up a whole bunch.
That's one hell of a kiss.
Yeah, love to have it done to me.
Oh, my.
Sorry, I like a mature. Anyway,
That is fine.
moving on to our next segment of questions.
You
How
don't
do you
want to
think?
talk about the general storytelling?
Oh, we'll get to that. But
I'm
right
talking
now,
about for Boku no Hero or My Hero Academia.
oh, we'll get to it.
Okay.
But right now, I want to know your thoughts on how you think he will change. Izu, our little Izu.
Honestly, I'm hoping that as much as I do enjoy it, I do hope that by at least the end of this arc that he does have at least enough control that he's not breaking bones, because we spent an entire season with him basically flicking at people and breaking fingers and everything else. But when he actually did that swing,
Mm-hmm.
was it last episode or the episode before last, where he
It
swung
was,
at Ice Face or Hot
yeah.
Icy Hot? I'm just gonna call him Icy Hot because I don't remember names in anime. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
I don't think they gave a name for that. The main villain in the first arc. They
No,
just
all of them have names, or at least nicknames, as far
I
as
know
I know.
Nomu is what All Might fought,
Yeah,
and that guy, you know, he had basically the same abilities. Only he could absorb a lot of damage,
yeah.
and All Might managed to burn his ability out. I don't know what happened to him after that. The cops caught him. I don't know why they used regular cuffs on him, but that's a
Maybe
different
they're
story
super
for a different
cuffs.
time. But maybe he couldn't even resist at that point. He got beat up pretty bad. Anyway, when he made that big swing at that dude, it didn't break his arm because he was swinging at a human and he subconsciously controlled himself, right?
Yeah. We
Well,
also
he's
didn't have to worry about actually hitting anything. If he would have actually made contact, it might have done some major damage to him and Icy Hot.
would have broke his arm and killed the guy, but he subconsciously managed to control himself, which is something like you said. I wish he could control a little better, but he was able to do it in the second arc against
Well, I'm fine with how we can control it right now. I'm just saying that I do hope that they pick up the pace really quickly, because if by the end of this tournament arc we don't get to see him really hit any kind of stride, where it's still him just running around trying to avoid everything and carefully not murdering everything in front of him. While it's funny, and it was funny for the first season, we're starting to get to the point where things should probably pick up. I'm not saying he has to be All Might immediately, but something.
but Allmart is more than just his strength. He's got a lot of confidence. He smiles during every situation in order to trick the fear inside of him.
Yeah.
But Izu isn't like that. Like I said, he's kind of a coward. So he's got to grow out of that. And I
Yeah.
wish for some more character development other than his superpowers, because all he's got to do is gain confidence, and his superpowers will follow right behind that.
I'm not so sure it's that easy, but here's hoping. Power positivity. I mean, that's what most anime is about.
Well, we can only hope. Well, anyway, getting on to the last segment of this particular anime. What do you think of Japan's storytelling style, Duck?
Oh, it depends on what you mean. If you're talking about theater, if you're talking about, I mean, there's several different types of storytelling within anime. A lot of them follow. You have like the 24 episode anime, which is a short arc of a beginning and an end. You have anime that are built right alongside of a manga like Naruto, which basically aren't so much built with an end in mind, but it will happen eventually when the money starts running out or they lose popularity. Then you have an anime like what's it called? Well, I guess, is the anime for Conan still going? I know the manga should be still going, right?
What was that?
Conan, Detective Conan, little dude
Oh, that
used to
that
be a big
anime.
dude. Yeah,
Yeah.
as well as One Piece still going. They have no interest in
What
doing
do most of those
basically
animes
anything.
have in common, Duck? The central theme that I'm trying to explain here is that they focus on character development. Luffy starts off as just a regular pirate with Gum Gum Fruit as his ally, and he progressively gets stronger. Same thing in Bleach, same thing in Naruto.
Well, aside from the
Only
power creep, as much as I do, like, I love One Piece. I watch it as much as I physically can because, 600 episodes, 700 by now by the time I'm talking about it. There's a lot of episodes, but for the most part, within about 25 to 40 episodes, the story arcs for One Piece basically loop in on each other, doing the same thing, the same pacing over and over and over, which definitely works. It's like every show that you watch where it's the villain of the week show, except for it's the villain of the season. And Luffy just gets stronger and stronger as well as everyone else. But aside from the power creep, between the first season and the current season, in my personal opinion, which may not be popular, it's the same thing, which I love, keep in mind.
sure, but I like Japan's storytelling style that focuses on character development a little bit more than I like our style of just big production and focusing on story.
Well, this also is a serialized anime as opposed to like a movie. When it comes to movies, they do the same thing, even in anime movies, unless of course you're talking about something like a Studio Ghibli film, in which case it's about being incredibly beautiful and character development. Nothing else matters aside from that.
Yeah, true enough. Love Studio Ghibli.
Don't we all? And apparently, I forget his name, the main guy is coming back out of retirement once again to grace us with a new movie.
Yeah, this one's probably going to be centered around respecting nature too,
Mm-hmm.
which,
Pretty good thing.
as a species, we tend to fail to do,
Yeah.
which is why it keeps getting hotter every single year. Anyway, environmental issues aside, let's move on to our next topic of discussion: Samurai Jack.
Watcha!
So, what do you think of the nature of Jack's sword? What I mean by that is, what do you think it is? It's clearly something that manifests as a physical weapon, but to me, I think it's a spiritual weapon that manifests as a physical weapon. It only comes to him because he's the most worthy to wield it.
I would think of it. I cannot remember what weapon in mythology. I want to say it's Greek mythology, but there's a weapon that basically is given by the. Actually, you know what? I can just make a reference to a recent movie, Moana. Spoiler warning! The Rock, I'm going to call him The Rock because his name's the goddamn Rock, gets a magical hook that turns him into fish, bird, shark face.
Yeah,
And it's given to him by the gods. And when it gets destroyed or whatever, or goes away, he can just be granted another one. I think this is a similar thing, that the sword, when it disappeared or when it's thrown into the chasm, it, instead of like, just hitting the ground and shattering or being stuck in the ground, it just simply went back to the ether where it came from. And Jack had to prove himself worthy again because the gods or whoever or whatever is in charge of making sure the sword and those sweet ass robes are in the person they're supposed to be in, have to make sure that Jack is, worthy because he lost himself, basically.
yes. And
Losing the sword was as much of a parallel to losing himself. He and himself is the sword.
Yeah,
kind of.
but the specific emotions he may have lost himself to find himself without the sword were anger and just despair.
Which did serve him well and allowed him to survive.
Yeah, the anger and the despair served him well, but in the end, he couldn't get the main weapon he needed to defeat Aku with back until he got rid of those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Because his anger and his despair at not being able to get back to his own time manifested and basically bitch slapped him across a tea room that he went to in his mind.
That little tea man, like, I don't know if you've ever done a tea ceremony like that. While I will admit sometimes it can be boring, it can also be incredibly relaxing, and that tea is really good if you make it right.
You've done a tea ceremony?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Got that stupid little stir and everything.
Yeah, I've yet to be so cool.
I will admit I am nowhere near as formal as Jack was. At the same time, my tea does taste good, so, I'd say I win.
You actually make your tea like that?
Well, if I do a ceremony like that, yeah. One of my friend's mother, not his mother didn't pass, but my friend passed, and I still keep in contact with his mother, and whenever we hang out, we do the ceremony where either she'll do it or I'll do it, and we'll serve each other tea.
Well, that's news to me.
It's something we've been doing for, how old am I now? 26, so 20 years, yeah. 20, 25, 20, 21 years.
Well, that's quite the deal you got there, young man. Anyway, I think as a sort of point of contention here, that the sword itself is only ever going to go to Jack because there's nobody in that series that we've met or have yet to meet besides the Scotsman that might be able to wield it.
I don't know. I would like to see Ashi, maybe. I don't think she has to be able to wield it, but I think Ashi is on the path to being as worthy. In a world ravaged by Aku, finding the good ones is few and far between. Yeah, most of the good ones are dead, so.
Yeah, he got the Scotsman, but that guy came back as a freaking magic ghost.
I gotta admit, that one threw me for a loop.
But you know what threw me for even more of a loop?
Hmm?
That ending, though. Let's talk about that.
You mean the
So
one that
what
they
do you?
projected from a mile away?
Yeah, I didn't see the whole kiss scene coming because they just kind of threw it on us and started playing this old 1950s love song.
The song may have been a little out of nowhere, but from the very beginning, like when they punched that tiger in the face and both of their hands just kind of tapped, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry."
But
With
did you
the
really think
pole
it
and
was
everything
gonna?
else. The
Did you really
entire
think?
time I saw it coming from a mile away. That is classic romance. I watch a lot of romance, so that might be the difference between me and you. I apologize.
Yeah, I don't. But this is that kind
It
of
was
threw me.
goddamn adorable.
I was like, okay, they
And it
just
really
started.
shows the fact that Jack, including the 50 years that he's been in the future, he spent basically his entire life training to defeat Aku, never really even taking any consideration into, sex, women, doing anything aside from trying to get back to the past. Samurai Jack.
Yeah, true enough. But the same could be said of Ashi. She trained her whole life to kill him,
Exactly.
and
They're
when that
in a
purpose
similar
was
boat,
taken away from
except
her,
for Jack's been around for a lot longer.
yeah, when that purpose was taken away from her, she had to find a new path, and it just so happens it started, and it may end with Jack himself.
Yeah. That'd be one badass baby.
Yeah, I couldn't wait to see what kind of child they have.
That would be an interesting way to continue the series if this is the end of the Samurai Jack series and maybe the beginning of now this is complete conjecture and I have no way of founding this, but if they do have a child, we could have a new show on our hands sometime down the future. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yep, wouldn't don't we all think so? I would love to see a sequel to Samurai Jack if he ever managed to defeat Aku and maybe battle somebody who's, I don't know, less destructive on the environment around them.
Well, one way or another, I definitely see this being the end of Samurai Jack. At least this, if not this season, then most certainly the next one, because I think they just wanted to. The way that Samurai Jack ended was not an end. It really wasn't.
Yeah, it was kind of lousy. Then
Yeah.
they gave us flashbacks of what happened in between the 50 years he had been wandering, but other than that, nothing concrete.
Hmm.
Speaking of an ending to Samurai Jack, let's not talk about his ending, but Ashi's. Do you
Before
think
we
they're
get
gonna?
to that, do you mind? I would
Oh,
like to talk about the cats and the spelling shirts, which I think were squandered because
yeah,
they could have
true
done
enough.
so much more. Personally,
Yeah,
I mean,
that
I like puns, but the little whoa when they got missed by the sword and kill Jack or whatever, I thought that was wonderful, and I wish they would have done more with it.
yeah. Here's another thing I'd like to talk about before we wrap this whole thing up. Do you think the slight psychoses he may have been experiencing, like talking to himself or people who weren't there, you think that's gone for good?
I think it's gone for now, but to say it's gone for good, I think might be too presumptuous.
Speaking of things that are gone for good, our last subject of debate here will be whether or not they're going to kill off Ashi in the future or let her live beside Jack.
I if they do kill her, it's gonna be in like the somewhere within the finale.
Yeah, it's got to be while he's fighting Aku, because she's so powerful as a character that I don't see how anybody else is going to take her out. She killed an entire army of those beasties.
Well, to be fair, Samurai Jack has done the exact same thing through the entirety of the series. It's never really the only time that Jack's ever been put to any kind of a test. It's more of the environment or more mental or more trickery than actual full out like in a just straight on one. He just wins. It is what he does. Like when
Yeah,
earlier in the series or earlier in the season when or Aku's number one assassin came at him with the power of music and for the most part got wrecked. And Jack didn't even have his sword.
yeah, but he's still a samurai. His techniques were made to kill living beings more than machines. So if any machine comes at him with, trickery, it's gonna kind of mess him up a bit and make him a little bit less effective.
I don't know. I'd say that, Jack's got the moves, baby.
Nice one. Anyway, I just I really hope they keep Ashi around because I can almost feel it in my bones. They're gonna kill her off sometime right when he's fighting Aku. He's gonna be like, "You traitor!" And then she's gonna catch a
I
bolt
can't
through the
wait for the
chest. Or something.
assassin to come back. Like I don't know why, but I love that guy.
Maybe
He is just
because he reminds
delightful.
you of Sammy Davis Jr.
Well, there's that too.
Well, that was an interesting jaunt. As far as topics go, I think we're pretty much wrapped up here. This has been PLYR Toons. I've been Fearless. You can find me on Twitch as Fearless Soul. You can find me on YouTube as Fearless Soul. You can find me on Twitter as the same thing. And this is my co-host, Duck McGavin. It's been a pleasure having you all listen to me, and well, maybe we can meet again some
So
other time.
I don't get to plug my stuff now. This is how it is. I see how it is.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm Duck McGavin. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, and the YouTubes, as well as on Facebook on a rare occasion. DuckMcGavin. I'm always streaming, so if you're looking at my streaming channel, there's always going to be new content there. And aside from that, yeah, I've said my piece, pimped my stuff.
All right. Well, I'm pimping aside and everything else that might have occurred while you were still listening. This will be the end of the broadcast. Thank you for listening.